Welcome to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate your taking the time to be with us. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. And joining us is Stephen Still, Professor of Practice at the Stephen Still Institute for Sustainable Transportation and Logistics at the University of Buffalo. Thanks for jumping on with us, Steve.
Pleasure.
Boy, that title sounds great. I mean, Jesus, that is a great title.
A mouthful.
Yeah. No, it's a great title.
Doesn't get better than that.
Doesn't get better than that.
Well, this past week, the fourth annual Princeton Smart Driving Car Summit wrapped up after 16 90-minute live sessions that took place weekly online. And the wrap-up title was Making It Happen. Alan, you presented a proposal for providing affordable, high-quality, on-demand mobility for all in the Trentons of this world. And it ties in very, very well with what Stephen and other researchers and partners are doing in Buffalo. Stephen, give us an overview to start with of what's taking shape there.
Yeah, sure. We're very blessed that we have an $8 million grant from the US DOT specifically focused on complete trips, and complete trips for those that are particularly mobility challenged. And Alan, that's been a big focus of yours. And, we're really pleased that the government leadership has recognized how important it is to provide mobility for all, not just those that can afford cars and the 1%ers. And, so very good public policy in this case. So we're now in the planning phase of a multi-phase project. This isn't just writing a report and throwing it on the shelf. This is true implementation. So we have, several parts of technology that'll come into play, but it's customer focused, and that's what makes this really exciting. It's for those that are physically challenged, for those that are mentally challenged, really for the low income, which downtown Buffalo, like downtown Trenton, we'll be discussing that, I'm sure, has lots of income challenges. And that's our target consumer in this case. And they're far too often overlooked. And this project intends in that operational design domain, which we'll discuss, hopes to solve mobility problems for these people.
Well, Steve, I'm of course so damn proud of you for doing that. Can't believe how proud I am for you doing that. In fact, is very much what I've been trying to promote, whatever in whatever places, and it's really nice to see that this is the focus. This is what you're doing, and you're doing it in one of the Trentons of this world, Buffalo and so on. And it's to me, as we've been discussing for now years, and as we've been talking, this is where the opportunity is. This is where the real improvement in quality of life is. If you put in delta something, you would expect a delta out, and you put in a delta over here, and what does it improve? Those of us that have been very fortunate in these cases, knock on wood, and we're all somehow can't believe that in fact we're so blessed, but the delta for us isn't what it can be for some others. And the focus this on the people, on the individuals who could benefit most from it, to me seems to be the obvious place to start. And once you do that, then of course come around to it for us too. But darn it, don't start with us.
Yeah, so in our case, the operational design domain, we won't mention level 4 and things like that.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
That's where the technology is, right? So one component of this is automated shuttles and an ODD, which is focus is the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. It's a 120-acre site in downtown Buffalo, has 7 major facilities, including Buffalo General Hospital, the UB Medical Campus, many other leading hospitals. And you know that that's a nexus of transportation challenges. People that are coming to medical centers often have mobility challenges and certainly medical issues to deal with. And, so we're taking a very holistic view here, realizing that it's not really just a last mile problem in this case, it's probably a last foot problem, right? I mean, you have to get people you have to get them across intersections, you have to get them, on a sidewalk, and you have to make sure the entrances are accessible. And then even when you're in the facilities, how do you navigate these complex, hospital facilities? So, one important element of this is an integrated app that does wayfinding and navigation with the intended audience in mind. So it's it's an app that has to work for the sightless and hearing impaired and and lots of other physical challenges.
Yeah, and as we've been involved with you and me and whatever for a very long time, just in was turn-by-turn navigation, whether it be in a car or in a walk or in a bicycle or whatever. The having the ability to get some help as to how to get from where you are to where you want to go in the pieces that you can manage, whether it's driving a car, walking, or whatever, or moving a wheelchair or something like that. It's always been, it was always important. I mean, I guess I recall back, arguing that, these turn-by-turn navigation systems were really something that was for people that never went anywhere. And, I think I was asked by the head of GM research at some conference, "Alan, what the hell are you talking about?" or something like that. Probably didn't say what the hell, but whatever it is. And, what is that? I said, the reason why people don't go anywhere is because they're afraid of getting lost, or they're afraid of not getting there, or afraid of not whatever. And this thing is like liberating. They'll be able to get there. They'll be able to get home. They won't have to worry about not getting home. Or you show up in one of these facilities and you don't know where to go. And so if this thing helps you get to where you're going, all of a sudden you might be more inclined to go there. And as we know, with a lot of people that are economically challenged, they tend to not go to the doctor. Now, whether or not there's a correlation or there's a cause and effect there, who knows? But the answer is they don't. And if all of a sudden, first they have an easy way to get there, an inexpensive way, a no big deal way. They don't need a PhD in reading a damn schedule. I mean, every time I look at the New Jersey train schedules out there at Princeton Junction, I'm there, holy mackerel, I missed too many classes. I'm challenged. I mean, make it easy on folks. In a sense, that's what you were talking about, is pieces of this thing, the getting between the big pieces, the last mile stuff, or maybe the first 12 miles, and then the last 50 feet. The opportunity one has at the location is that you can they tend to be attractions. Lots of folks tend to come there. Okay, so you can afford to have a person there helping. Okay, you just can't have a person helping on all the many ways that people get there. Otherwise, you need too many people. You can't afford it. You don't have enough money. Okay, where now you have a computer do it, boom. It's true. I don't know.
Yeah. So
Stephen,
back
is
to one
there
of the themes here is, why Trenton, why Buffalo? It's really a good size to really wrap your hands around this, because in Buffalo, we know who the advocacy groups are for the mobility challenge communities. The those communities have already been built up, and we know who the spokespeople are and the organizations are. I think, where San Francisco and New York City and Miami were, it's just harder to wrap your hands around all that and, get the right people at the table. But, Buffalo is not small. It's the 50th biggest metro in the country. It's there with Hartford and New Orleans.
Yeah.
And, it's a reasonable size, but, it's big enough. It's the right size to manage. And I'm sure you feel the same about Trenton.
Yeah, and Trenton's even a little smaller. And when you look at 50th and 100th or whatever, if you go from 15th to 250th, or let's call it 265th, you have 250 communities that you can work with. Okay, the individual groups we had in the session on Thursday, we had Fred Payne from Greenville. Fred's been out there just like you, beating his head against the wall, getting these groups. But again, it's organizable, it's manageable. My goodness, it's a real place to start, as opposed to saying I'm going to go do San Francisco, and if I do, I'm going to do a Frank Sinatra. If you can do it in New York, you can do it in Bull. Okay, on this one, I think if you can do it in Buffalo, you can do it in Trenton, you can do it in all the important places. New York.
Do you have any idea? I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead, Fred. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you have any thoughts about when you expect to have this operational and how many vehicles it's going to take? Or are we too early here?
Yeah, well, we're in the planning stage, but the planning stage is pretty sporty. It's 1 year, so there's a lot of work to do in that time frame, and so the planning phase gets to exactly what you talk about. Have to get the app developed. There are already some good platforms that we'll build off of. We have to contact the autonomous shuttle providers, and we're still working out the routing and scheduling. Right, it's a level of service problem, right, Alan? I mean,
it's a level of service problem.
Are we doing 5-minute headways, or demand responsive, and the number of vehicles comes out of the math, and how big is the operational design domain?
Will it be a fare-based system, do you think, or is this something that the grant is providing the funding?
Yeah, to be worked out. We're in partner. We have many partners. The local transit agency is a very important one, the NFTA, and the city and others are worked out. But there's some social benefits associated with this. So I very much think various governments will be at the table to step up and make sure this is affordable.
That's sort of it's sort of where I've evolved with respect to Trenton and so on. I don't those kinds of issues are sort of what the answers people want. We are still in taking the first step. We can see the vision out there. We can put out what the grant and say, hey, as I say with my class, we deal with the whole damn nation, 1.2 billion trips a day. If you're dealing with students in class with Algram, man, you run the optimization, 20 million vehicles running around. Okay, great, wonderful. That's where we want. Problem is taking the first step. And in a sense, is sort of I've sort of praised Waymo with respect to Chandler. They're out there, they're doing it. They had, of course, you do it with drivers in the beginning. We're not out here swashbuckling to talk about how great our technology is. The technology, we like to talk about it, but that's not the issue. Is how well do we move people? How are their lives improved? Okay, and in the beginning, we have to find ways to improve their lives, know where to take them, know where they want to go, not where we want to go, where they want to go, and get that way. If it requires drivers in the beginning, so what? It's an upfront cost. And we know with upfront costs, as long as they don't continue on, as long as you can get to, low marginal costs out of that, Who cares what the front costs? That's what all these funding agencies are supposed to help us out with. That's why we put them out there to do the front end risk and let us work these things out so that we get to a sustainable point that doesn't require us to go back all the time. Alms for the poor, give me more money, because we have to be focused on getting to a point in which the marginal cost of doing this thing compared to the marginal value that we're creating, the marginal cost is very small compared to the marginal value, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and actually another part of the ODD I didn't mention is something called the Fruit Belt in Buffalo. It gets its name, all the street names are lemons and limes.
Yeah, okay.
It's 47% carless area. I think the average household income is less than $30,000. And I'm sure we can go to some part of Trenton and find the same demographics.
Exactly what we did, exactly what we started with. We first looked at where are not only the carless families, but the families with one car. And I like to argue, if you're a 4-person family with one car, what the hell do the other 3 people do? Okay. Oh, they get chauffeured by the first one. You know, that works for a while, but the first one's got stuff to do. Okay. So,
yeah, I mean, it's probably would have been easier to take this to Williamsville, the rich suburb in Buffalo, and you know, where all the lane markings are nice and everything else. But yeah, that's not where the need is.
It's not where the need is, and then you have to put up with them. I mean, we could have come to Princeton. I mean, you know, whatever. Oh, well, it's not as good as my Bentley. Well, I don't know. I mean, get out of my face, please. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've sat through too many of those meetings. They don't allow me in them anymore. So whatever.
Stephen, you've had some experience at the University of Buffalo already, right? With local motors up there?
Yeah,
that
is correct. Yeah, that was very fortunate that we've now for 2 years had an Ollie shuttle on certain roads in the UB North Campus. Now, you know, regulation is you know, exciting topic to get into, and you know, Alan, just following your blog, it's not often you see lots of stories coming out of New York State about, you know, the latest testing and trials. New York State's tough, and that's part of this project to work with advocates to get some regulations changed. We have good political support as it is, but there's a lot of archaic laws in New York State that how you define a vehicle, and those definitions say there must be a steering wheel, and you know, and along those lines, and something like the Ollie shuttle doesn't cleanly fit into those definitions of a vehicle where it has a joystick, not a steering wheel. So, you know, the way we got around this, the way Autonomous Ride got around it on the Brooklyn Navy Yard is they're private roads. They're designated as private roads. And so that's been the test bed so far that we've had to deal with, but that's not going to work. You know, with this project and going forward, we need the right regulations in place, and yeah, some realization that, hey, you know, you want to be part of this, all this excitement, yeah, you need to come to the table and make the laws.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways that I tried to handle it was, let me see, these roads are owned and maintained by this local government. They can't specify what the heck goes on there. And just because, you know, the county or the state or the federal government says, oh, no, whose roads are these anyway? I mean, really? The locale, oh, well, they're too stupid. I don't know what the implication. Oh, they can't possibly. Oh, you know, no, whatever. I must admit, I didn't get very far with that argument. But my goodness, these are local roads. If I look in Princeton, Cleveland Lane, the road in front of my house is the local road. Now, what the heck does a county have sticking its nose into it? Now, if we have to cross 206, I realize that maybe you need to talk to a Fed, but there are some folks out there talking about that maybe some of these regulations, don't adhere as long as you're not on a federal road or whatever for too long. And I think 2 sessions ago with Jeff Barnes of Florida, that's what Florida is trying to suggest. They're trying to suggest, yeah, thank you, federal government, for doing this, but just across your U.S. whatever, darn it, please, this is our community. And so, in some sense, some of these things, yes, on the New York State Thruway, maybe you do need a steering wheel. Okay, New York State, thank you. But in a local Buffalo neighborhood, talk to me here. I don't know, but that's why I don't get asked to meetings very often.
Why this all takes partnerships, and I think we have good partnerships with the city of Buffalo and the state, and how the political part works, right? You get some politicians that are, really on your side, want to work hard, and it's just a tough discussion to have at the state legislatures. It's topics that are not well understood broadly, and there's
and they have a lot of other issues, and you bring this one up, and they're all up to here, and everything else they have to deal with. What the heck, and so on. So not blaming them, but in some sense, maybe they should look and say, maybe we don't need to be looking so closely at what they're doing. Maybe
Others have done it.
Is there a lack of understanding of how life-changing this technology can be for so many people when you talk about the political environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have to tell the stories over and over again. There's a lot of competition for politicians' ears, as you can see. But I think the more you tell the stories, they really see, this has tremendous benefit. I think we've all seen the surveys that, there's some level of fear about this technology. That all has to be overcome. The more successful deployments we have, the better that's all going to be.
I guess that's kind of where I'm sort of evolving to with this is to, first of all, out of this, move away from the technology being the center of the discussion. The center of the discussion should be the operational design domain. Where are you doing this and the level of service that you're offering? And in fact, kind of what I was trying to promote on Thursday in the session was really as is still being done, was being done in Chandler and in Phoenix. Waymo's out there with, they could have been Yugos. I mean, who knows? No technology vehicles out there with drivers providing mobility. What's it look like? It looks like Uber Lyft. We all know what Uber Lyft looks like, except maybe it's an improved Uber Lyft that has a little bit more ride sharing that's on it, because sort of kind of to me where Uber and Lyft have evolved is, it's a private taxi ride. And in fact, it's a cheap taxi ride because I'm taking advantage of the driver who's in a desperate situation, wanting to make, any amount of money that he or she can, and is out there, and therefore, they're being underpaid. They're not earning a living wage, and it's sort of unfortunate the corner that's been painted there. But in fact, if we could figure out how you and I could ride together in a vehicle, we could both chip in that little fare, and that's twice the money that person would earn. We put Fred in there 3 times. Now all of a sudden it could become close to a living wage, but it's got to get to that point. Or at some point, once we provide that mobility, maybe all this stuff gets good enough that driver can go somewhere else and expand our operational design domain, because now whatever the snake oil that we've been developing works in here, and we can replace it with a computer, with everyday astronaut or whatever, and that, as I argued, that computer doesn't have a family to feed, doesn't have a kid to send to college, doesn't have a kid to send to basketball camp so that the kid can get a scholarship to go to Kentucky or something. Okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, here you are. Now you can do this affordably to people, maybe. If you do it affordably, maybe somebody can even make money delivering it affordably. Then we just have to let that person go out and make money, and we deliver the mobility affordably to everybody. I mean, I guess that's the existing dream or something that is emerging, at least to me, out of this. So in the beginning, it's not about the technology, it's about the service.
Yeah.
And part of the problem with the service out there in these communities, in the what is it, the fruit stand that you said, or the fruit,
Fruit belt, yes.
or the fruit belt, is that, you know, the buses don't come often enough.
Yep.
Because you can't afford to put them out there often enough. It's not that nobody doesn't want to put the buses out there. Not that nobody doesn't want to give on-demand origin to destination service. It's just
Sure. And the big fancy supermarkets, the Wegmans and Tops of Buffalo, guess what? They're not in the fruit belt, right?
They're not in the fruit
there's
belt.
7-Eleven, and you know you can go get chips and Coke, and that's.
My goodness, and giving them a chance to go to a Costco or someplace, or, you know, or a Walmart, or even a Walmart, where, I mean, Walmart's done a great job providing very affordable, more affordable things to a lot more people. But guess what? Accessibility to Walmart must be only, I mean, 110% cars. I mean, it's greater than 100. How do you get to a Walmart? Except, I mean, there used to be a Walmart at Nassau Park Shopping Center. They did have a bus. New Jersey Transit actually had a bus stop in that shopping center. But the walk that you had to make to go, so how many people showed up at Walmart there, you know, using New Jersey Transit bus? 0.01%, 0.001%.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
we're going to be back with more, but first, this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, head to motoetf.com. On the website, look for the white paper. It's called The Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Great information there to help you make informed decisions about investing. You may know ETFs can be a good way to spread risk with investments and focus on a particular category of stocks. The site, once again, is motoetf.com. We are back with more of the Smart Driving Cars podcast and our guest, Stephen Still. Alan, let's turn to the proposal you presented for providing affordable, high-quality, on-demand mobility for all in the Trentons of this world. This was just a few days ago at the final session of the Smart Driving Cars Summit.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about it a little bit up to now. You know, the idea is really to find a bunch of a number of autonomous taxi stops around the community, which are very near to where people are coming from and going to. As Steve mentioned, you know, the fruit bowl, whatever, you know, fruit belt areas, you know, in places where people live. In a sense, as Steve very well pointed out in the beginning, the people that really have been left behind by the automobile, and there have been a number of them, and it's not just an infinitesimal group. And the way that we go and try to understand this is, as Steve has done with respect to auto ownership. Auto ownership, you know, reflects a lot of things. If you're in Manhattan, okay, you don't have an car because you happen to have a 5-story, you know, townhouse brownstone, and it doesn't have a garage. But holy mackerel, you have so much money, you have chauffeurs living all around. It's almost like being in Downton Abbey. You know, you have your chauffeur to take you. In these places, the reason why the auto ownership is low is because, unfortunately, geez, their economic, Go
Yeah,
ahead,
you can
Steve.
bring up the Amazon case that you've mentioned before in your work, right? Buffalo has its Amazon facilities, but it's out in Hamburg. The new one's being built. It's
Yeah,
not so they pay $50 an hour. I'm sure the residents of the Fruit Belt would love to get out there, but there's no chance.
there's no chance, and to do that, to get out there, and I think, look, Amazon, I haven't weighed in on the discussion as to whether Amazon should be unionized or not unionized, and Jeff is a Princeton grad, School of Engineering, 86, but and so on. But as I look at it, the setting of the minimum wage at Amazon at $15 is not is a pretty darn good start. Not a whole lot of other folks have really stepped down and done that. Now, $15 an hour is not really a living wage when you really look at it. I mean, holy hell, if I had to survive on $15 an hour, I wouldn't. Although I think I did it at one point, but never mind. But whatever, that's knock on wood. We're some wood here, but whatever. But that's a start. But how do people get there? And they're not located where the people live. Why? Because of course not. You need facility. No way you're going to do a location decision on a warehouse distribution, whatever. And to think here, Amazon is a computer company. They're the second largest employer in the United States. How the hell did we get from Silicon Valley to the second largest? Only, and guess what? Most of those jobs this is somewhat of a blue collar jobs. Okay. And guess what they can't do? They can't use this thing. They have to go to work. They can't stay at home.
Yeah.
They need the mobility. Yeah. Okay. And every one of the systems that we built, essentially every one of the systems that we built, the light rail, the whatever, the BRTs, the whatever, have been focused on people who, guess what, are white collar, who through the pandemic were able to stay home and do everything they need to do. The Amazon worker had to get to work. And there's no in the mobility system for them to get there. We didn't put any money in that. And we're looking to do what with the infrastructure bill? What? Build more of this stuff to get people to work that could be doing it from home or from some local whatever, in there and walk to there. If you got to dig a ditch, you got to go to where the ditch is being dug. Talk to me here, Steve. I mean, seems like, I don't know. And I think that's what the focus should be. And guess what? If you put it in these things that don't care where they go, that don't care where they pick you up, don't care when you need to go, whether or not it's the night shift, day shift, the day shift. The operational design domain of that entity allows you to get these people to where they need. I mean, at least some amount of money needs to go in the beginning to deal with this. And while we're all getting the stuff to really work, now, if we don't get it to work, if it isn't safe, if it goes and crashes, if people don't like it, if whatever, then okay, we fail. But at least we can do a lot of figuring out what it is that we need these things to do, which I'm not sure that we know yet. We can do that with people. Up and down front, expand that. That was the focus.
I don't think it means transit goes away. I think it can make transit more effective.
It is transit. Why do people? It drives me nuts. It is transit. Transit is moving people.
Yep, of course.
Okay, as opposed to people moving themselves.
Yep, but
that's what it is.
Complement existing transit technology. The buses could be the line haul hub to hub sort of things.
Yeah, where you have, hey, these things, if we do it in Trenton, aren't all of a sudden going to go across the Lincoln Tunnel and take people to Manhattan? Right. No, nobody's even thinking of that. Yeah. Take them to a train station. They can hop on New Jersey Transit and get on a train. Yeah. Okay, there are enough trains, and in fact, if there's no reason why New Jersey Transit can't run trains to Manhattan instead of every half hour, every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. And, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Make them smaller. Make them whatever. Put your money in the tunnel. Improve the station in New York so it can eat it. Do it. Yep. Okay. Do that. But people then will have to get there because guess what? There are only, I don't know, and we're in a small 10 or so, dozen, 12, 14 stations along where you want to stop to pick up people. Okay, you got to get people there. You're going to make them have parking lots. We have this wonderful park and ride system of express buses that use the XBL in the morning, probably the most efficient corridor transit reverse bus lane in the world. Okay. That uses no technology, although it could use a little technology and so on, coming from all these park and ride lots. You got to have a car to get to the park and ride lot. I mean, you joking? Why not pick up the little operation in the Trentons of this world? I mean, let's think, and we can do it right now with just people driving. Pay them a living wage in a couple places. Get the technology to work. And then you also have to try new ones, and they'll continue to have their jobs. And exactly what you're doing in Buffalo. Okay.
Alan, you've talked repeatedly about the need to get input from the communities to find out what their needs are from the people. Maybe Stephen can tell us what the approach is there in Buffalo in developing the system that you have in mind that you've proposed.
Yeah, there's been actually some good history there. I mean, Alan, when we think about it, who develops autonomous vehicles correctly, you might think the mechanical engineers, sort of figure out the vehicle part, and the guys over in computer science figure out the software. But, I've found out, and I've been educated, the most important people at the table are architects and urban planners. And those people have been doing accessible design, universal design for a number of years. And there's been long relationships with the community in Buffalo. These advocacy groups we talked about earlier that advocate for the sightless or the hearing impaired or other mobility impaired, low income neighborhood groups. And they've had those relationships for years. So in this particular case, that's helped our particular project, really have a leg up, and that those relationships already exist. And
beyond the leaders, is there a need to get into the communities themselves and hear from the people?
Yeah, I think within the ODD, absolutely. And, Fruit Belt has had some vocal community leaders, and that's an important part to engage with those communities. It turns out they're already organized because there have been various redevelopment projects proposed, and some of them probably may not be consistent with the neighborhood. So there've been lots of debates about that. So the community is already engaged, in these sort of public forum.
And if they're involved in the development stage, then the community acceptance just follows right along. It's not something you have to campaign for necessarily so hard and work for.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. You can't just dictate, here it is, we want you to like it. Yeah, be at the table from the beginning, be part of the design.
We aren't very good at dictate. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't bring in politics. We tried to dictate in Afghanistan. I don't know. Not that whatever. I guess we're walking. Geez, but we shouldn't be dictating to the people here. That they should. We should. The sociology of this thing is so important at this time. Okay, And it's not that the mechanical engineers and the computer scientists, whatever, when you're on here on your, as we all know, hey, when I'm on my computer, I don't, how much do I see? Like, talk about the last inches here. That's about the perspective. You've got to get down to the community and see what do they think will make their lives better, because that's what this is all about. It's about that. It's not about the technology. It's not about, oh my goodness, we have only one disengagement per gazillion miles. I mean, who cares? Okay, yeah, you got to be safe. Okay, you're not safe, get out. You don't even don't bother showing up. Okay, but just being safe isn't good enough. You've got to do what you've got to be doing what it is you're trying to do, which is help people. You got to know. You have to know what they want, not what you think they want. Well, I think, well, they should have to. I mean, who cares what I think on that one?
Although the technology is pretty cool. Before the call, Anna, I was relating a story that I folled around a Waymo van in Chandler, Arizona.
Yeah.
It was the first vehicle at a red light, wanted to make a left turn, light's red, and the light turns green and it doesn't go, right? So you think, well, let's lay on the horn, but 2 cars blew through that red light and then Waymo went. So yeah, absolutely. Safety's everything.
And it knew. And here, I mean, if I would have been behind, I would have been on the horn. I'm gonna. Whoa! I didn't see that.
Yeah.
It knew. Oh man, yeah.
No,
Hey,
so.
but and hey, it is great that we're getting close. If it were not already there, that Waymo actually didn't know. They weren't lucky. They did the right thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now people have to begin to appreciate it, as opposed to me being behind them on the horn. What the hell? They don't know how to drive. What is matter? They're following the speed limit. What the hell? Or all those. I mean, and you have to earn that respect. And you can't just tell people. I think you have to go out there and do it. And you have to not necessarily, trumpet it. Just sit there and do it. They weren't trumpeting it to you, right?
Yeah.
They just did it.
They did their homework
They did their homework, right? They showed up. Yeah. They showed up. They did their homework. And what did that do for you? Probably said, holy hell, this shit's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what the people in the neighborhoods, the people that use it, the people, if they don't have that respect for it, as I've said, it's not going to happen. They're not going to show up, and they're going to make sure it's not in their neighborhood. It's their neighborhood.
Yeah.
They get to make the call.
Yeah, and when it's new, yeah, maybe you need the safety steward for some point in time, right?
Absolutely, you do.
Let's hope that disappears at some point so we can get it to 50 cents a mile, 25 cents a mile. But although in the case of the mobility challenged, maybe we need a different kind of person on board. It's not somebody who's a safety steward, but somebody who's trained in the medical profession, a social worker.
You need hey, right now we need 2 people on board. You still need that person on board to take care of that person. You now need to have a driver. And to think that the driver can multitask, I don't know. I guess all my students think they can multitask. I don't know. Maybe they can. I know I can't multitask. Okay. I just can't. Okay. And you can't expect a driver. I don't know how you can expect today a driver to also take care of the person. Okay. I mean, if they're driving, they're not taking care of that person. Okay. So I guess you didn't need anybody to take care of the person. And if you tell me you need somebody to take care of the person, then you better have 2 people in there right now. Okay. And if you can replace one of them with a computer, then great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you know, and talk about where, you know, all this for the people that have to use that right now, it's so darn expensive, because really you have to provide 2 people.
Yep.
Whereas you would only have to provide 1.
Yeah, I think we've all seen the figures, what it costs to provide paratransit. It's not.
Well, it's $60 a ride, I think, is the number in New Jersey. $60 a ride. Okay.
Yeah.
And you would think, holy mackerel, I mean, Uber's not a taxi, a black car is not a limousine's not that expensive. You know, and for what kind of service? What's the time window? What is the opportunity cost of the person that has to sit around all day, or the place where they go to have such flexible scheduling because they don't know when these people are going to arrive and whatever and do, and so therefore, and then make them wait and what to do. I mean, if you ever, you know, ran through a level of service measure on that, you'd be appalled by the number you would come up with.
And that's where this can all make a difference.
It makes a fundamental difference. Yes. Yes.
Let's touch on a couple of headlines from the Smart Driving Cars newsletter coming out. Tesla owners can now use an app to see how much solar or coal is powering their vehicles.
Well, I know, I happen to know Steve owns a Tesla. Okay. All right. And I've ridden in it with him. Okay. And he also told me about the fact that it turns the brakes sometimes come on when he passes an overhead sign on Tesla Road or something in Buffalo, right, Steve, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the answer. You don't need an app. 100% coal. And the reason it's 100% coal is...
It really depends on where you are.
No, I don't believe... Well, a little bit, because there are some places where it would be really tough and really waste a lot of energy to not to get coal to you, and therefore maybe. But look,
don't you have
it's
some
marginal.
hydro and some nuclear up your way?
Yeah, of course we do, but it's already called for. It's already being used in society. I've taken my internal combustion engine car and I've converted to an electric car. I used to use Saudi Arabian oil. Now I need to use something new, electricity. I now go to the electric company, give me electricity. They look at they have gas here, they have holy mackerel. You know, if you don't, when you weren't calling, we turned down this coal plant so it wouldn't use as much, because we had all this wind and stuff coming in and we could shut her down. Now you come to me and you say, I need some electrons. What's that person going to do? The only thing they can do, the only variable that they have, the only tweak they have is turn up the coal. The marginal energy is coming from coal. Else, you would turn down the coal plant because that's the most polluting. If I didn't need it, I'd turn that down if I'm a good, utility operator. So I don't get to use the average. I have to use the margin. I'm the marginal user. Now, go ahead, Steve. Talk to me.
Except in Buffalo, which is, I think, the last I checked, the cleanest place in the country to have an EV.
I agree. I mean, what do you have? You have. Oh, you have Niagara. No, you have Niagara Falls. Oh,
the power plants have been there since 1920. Yeah.
You in Las Vegas.
Oh, right. Yep.
The only reason Las Vegas is where Las Vegas is because of the Hoover Dam. Who in the hell would light up all that light and all that stuff and whatever? And of course, you have the Colorado River there, so you also have the water to be able to divert. So yeah, the two things you need. Okay, sure. And certainly they can turn that sucker. What do they do if Steve shows up with his Tesla there? They just use more of the electricity from Hoover Dam to power his Tesla and not send quite as much to LA. Okay, so they have to power up their coal plant because they're not getting the electron that damn Steve used. And I don't know. I don't want to look. This is difficult, and but really, when you actually look at it, if we look at the whole what you have on your table with respect to producing electricity, no doubt, the one that you want to shut down is coal, if you possibly can. You keep that sucker running to only take care of the new user. Otherwise, you would shut her down. There's one way to shut down coal: use less electricity. All of a sudden, you show up with your Tesla and you're using more electricity. I can't shut her down.
Yeah, that's a big question. Sure, there's going to be a challenge on the grid, and where does that incremental electricity come from?
Absolutely, of course it is.
PM is really sincere that it's all EV by 2035. It's going to have to be a bigger grid. So
bigger grid. I mean, again, as we discussed a few weeks ago in the summit, and you go to the Lawrence Livermore energy flow charts, which to me are, I look at them if I try to understand electricity, and you see how much energy is being used by the transportation sector, where it's coming from. Saudi Arabia. Well, not anymore. Maybe it's coming from, I don't know, Oklahoma. Who knows? Whatever. But it's oil. Okay. And you then say, oh my goodness, I have to get it out of some electric generation thing. I mean, the amount of electricity you need, additional electricity, is about the amount that you're currently producing. So that means I have to find another Niagara Falls. I have to find another Hoover Dam. I have to find some other power plants. I have to find some other, equivalent wind generation. I have to find all that to go out and make up for the petroleum that I used to use. That is talk about an infrastructure challenge.
Some people have done it, right? Norway has tremendous hydropower.
Right, and so does Quebec. Quebec apparently has like a ton of hydropower. I mean, there's nobody there, and they've got, or at least when I look at it in a Mercator projection, it's like huge. No idea, but if I can look at another projection, but whatever. With all that hydropower, sure, they can. But if they start using hydropower to power their ground transportation system, they can't sell hydropower to New Jersey to run to heat its homes or to run its factories. Okay, so now New Jersey has to make up for that because they're using it in their cars. Where are we going to do it? Well, I guess we're shutting down nuclear power. Whatever. I don't know. It's a big problem.
It is. Another headline, Alan.
Bill Gates is a big fan of nuclear, and back when when we were in university, Alan, we were protesting against nukes, but maybe Bill Gates is right. Nuclear is the future.
Hey, a lot of advances. Unfortunately, we ran into 3 Mile Island, and then Chernobyl, and then Fukushima. And and we cannot have a 3 Mile Island. We cannot have a Chernobyl. We cannot have a Fukushima in what we're trying to do with mobility for these neighborhoods. So it has to work. And if we need people in there in the beginning to make sure and oversee it, to make sure that we don't have those 3 kind of things, then it is money well spent. We just can't continue to do that forever. At some point, we've got to get to a point in which the marginal cost of the darn thing is sustainable and it can grow. But in the beginning, why not? Of course, and we shouldn't hurry to get them out of there. I mean, what are we trying to do? Show how strong we are. Get out of here. Okay, we're trying to get the darn thing to work. And again, I'd like to come back to Waymo. Waymo has done so far, as far as I can tell, a fantastic job in Arizona. I don't care that all of Arizona, the ODD hasn't grown to Flagstaff or whatever. Doesn't matter. They haven't had a 3 Mile Island. They haven't had a Chernobyl. They haven't had a Fukushima. Okay. They had a couple little fender benders, people running into them and saying, oh my goodness, I thought they were going to go and I wasn't paying attention and I was on my cell phone and I ran into them. Or holy mackerel, it's your fault. Okay. You should have been paying it. Don't blame it on them. Okay. Uber did have a Fukushima. They had Alain Kornhauser. Okay. 60 billion is what I've said many times. I think it cost them. They were expected to go out at 120. They went out at 60. The only thing that happened between those two things is Alain Kornhauser. Only thing. I mean, the only Fukushima type thing. Okay. I'm sure Waymo knows that. I'm sure GM Cruise knows that. I'm sure Ford Argo knows that. I'm sure Aurora knows that. I'm sure. And if it causes them to slow down, great. Okay, because we can't afford to have those. And we'll make progress, and we'll get to a point where people will say, like I guess Bill Gates, hey, nuclear power. Or the French have said, nuclear power, not so bad. Don't know.
Another related headline, Alan, to what you're talking about. Uber is licensing its ride-hailing software to 3 more public transit agencies. So they're finding new revenue streams.
Yeah, I guess, it's good for Uber and it's nice the software, but it doesn't the Uber software, the way it's used, it doesn't do any ride sharing to any amount. And again, ride sharing is really important in this. If even a computer has to chauffeur you and you have to take one of these vehicles all by yourself, the way that we use our cars ourselves, because we're trying to get to someplace and we don't want to take anybody and we don't want to wait for anybody else or something like that. I don't know. Then this may not be as great of a solution. So we've got to get to a ride sharing, and I don't think that really helps the transit agencies. And in the end, who's going to be there? The Uber driver is going to be a transit worker. I mean, I can't imagine New Jersey Transit and the United Transportation Workers Union at New Jersey Transit putting up with a whole lot of folks out there, providing public transit in New Jersey without being a member of the union. And they probably should be a member of the union. Those folks need to earn a living wage, a good wage. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it should be one of the attributes. So all of a sudden, if you put that on Uber and Lyft or Uber and Lyft software, you can't afford. If you could afford to do this job, paying living wages to people to do it, then in fact the taxi industry would have done a long time ago. The dollarized systems that we talked about in the 70s and 80s would have boomed and be delivering 60% of the person trips in the nation. But I guess one of the fundamental realities of mobility is if you have to pay a living wage to a driver, and you sort of want to go by yourself, 1% of the trips. I mean, that is 1% of the trips. 1% of the person trips in the U.S. today are served by transit. That includes New York City. That includes places where you can pack them in. can't afford to do it otherwise. That system, the system that delivers that today, has to be called bankrupt. Why? Because, you know, if it didn't have the continuing public subsidy, it would collapse. I mean, it's good to keep it for that 1%, I guess. I mean, that's a political public policy decision. Fine. It's not that expensive anyway. Sure, do it. Who cares? But you're not having a big effect. Henry Ford, with what he did and what the people did around him and so on, created an economy that is essentially the other 99% of the trips, which involves us having to go out and buy the darn thing, maintain it, drive it, charge ourselves nothing when we drive it, think that we're having a great time and whatever, and we actually enjoy it, when in fact, holy hell, it's the most dangerous thing that we do in a day. Every once in a while, when I think about it, I start to shake. Holy hell, if I go over here and just check something out, I die. Kidding me? Madmen that created this thing and set it up, man, boy, they were good. Holy hell. I mean, hey. And then when I watched, I mentioned it before, when I watched the Masters last week, you know, Mercedes, AMG were being advertised. I mean, they were driving those things on race courses and fast and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I thought, oh man, if I just go down to the showroom, buy one of those, I'm going to be able to do that too.
You think they'd want to rethink those ads during a golf tournament?
Drive at excessive speed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as I keep saying on my damn car, it says 160 miles an hour I can do on my, you know, and I didn't go in the showroom and bought it. I bought it secondhand because I'm cheap and whatever. But, you know, holy man, where can I do 160 miles an hour in Jersey? I have to go to a track. Okay, I'll go to a track. My GPS system knows I'm at the track. They know I'm there. They should only turn it on when I'm there, not when I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike, not when I'm going down Cleveland Lane in Princeton. Okay, damn it. And Tiger Woods, you know, shouldn't have been able to go 85 miles an hour, whatever he was on that street. That car knew where it was. The system that was put in that car should have kept him from doing that. It should, and the advertising that got him to buy that car or accept it when it was given to him, I'm sure that must have been what happened, but he accepted it. The vision that was put in his brain is like, oh, I can just go like about out of the hell, whatever, when I'm probably on my cell phone and who knows what, scratching my butt and who knows what, picking my nose. Whose fault is that? Is it just Tiger's, or is it also the car's fault and the manufacturer's fault? Because it knew. And the cars that we're going to buy tomorrow, they're going to know.
Talking about that, Alan.
Yeah.
With the cars, the last couple of things I'd like to bring up quick. Walmart is investing in GM's Cruise, autonomous vehicle subsidiary, bringing the valuation, Cruise says, to over $30 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Cruise for taking that concept. And when Cruise started, I actually had this same concept as to do aftermarket, you know, automated driving. What am I valued at? 3 cents. They're valued, whatever. Never mind. Whatever. That's
Ford.
Okay.
Ford, by the way, Alan.
But on that, I think it's great. I think. Look, everybody.
We've had some great things to say about Cruise.
Yeah, not only Cruise, but the delivering of things to our homes, to places where we live. Why not? And as I continue to say, the streets, including 206, US 206, and Cleveland Lane, are unused between, you know, midnight and 5 a.m. There are certainly no children chasing balls. There's nobody really riding a bicycle, maybe. it's a heck of a lot easier in that part of the operational design domain to get this stuff to work. So maybe Amazon can't deliver everything that I want. Oh, I'm so entitled. I deserve something in the next 2 hours. Okay, I'm entitled. Most of the stuff, hey, if it was in my house by the time I woke up this morning and had fresh milk on, I'd be happier than, so for maybe it's not all this stuff, but 50% of the stuff that comes to our house, if it came, by the time I got up the next morning, would I be a happy camper? I think so. Would it cost Walmart or Amazon to deliver it to me autonomously with one of these autonomous things operating when there are no children, no bicyclists, no pedestrians, essentially nobody else on the road? Holy mackerel, if we can't do it then. And as we found out in the DARPA challenge with Prospect 11, actually our system, our vision system, worked better at night than it did during the day. Why? Because the lights highlight the corners, and corners are really important for recognition and the image recognition thing. So that's work better at night than it did during the day. Now, I don't know whether or not Cruise's system works better at night during the day, but I bet it does. It doesn't work any worse. And hey, and the problem's easier.
If you didn't happen to notice, Alan, Ford is calling its upcoming hands-free driving assist system Blue Cruise. Thought that might be interesting. And it's going to be available on the F-150 and Mustang Mach-E models later this year. Those that are equipped with what Ford calls Copilot 360 Active 2.0 Prep Package. Interesting naming there too.
Interesting name. I still, the ALK is now owned by Trimble, and I think they bought everything, that we ever created. And somewhere in there, I know we have a trademark on the word Copilot. Okay, I know we do somewhere, and damn it, at some point that entity, however, should go out and enforce its trademark. I can't go call myself IBM something, okay, and somebody at Fortune be allowed to grab Copilot. Copilot was, damn it. I don't think I'm the one that came up. Somebody else came up with it. I think I wanted to call Copilot like right. Guiding angel, and they blew me down on that one. Copilot, okay, that's a good second. We'll take that one, but we trademarked that sucker. Anyway,
well, that's another issue.
That's another issue. That's another life. That's another issue. Damn it. Whatever.
Well, we need to take a minute to thank our guest here, Alan.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time.
So proud of you. So happy for you. Anyway, thank you, Steve.
Great. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay.
And thank you to our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO, and more information is available at motoetf.com. You can find us once again at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, really wherever you get your podcasts, and you can get your smart speaker to play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching, and please stay safe.
Thank you, everybody. You have a great day. Bye.